Saturday is Dungeon Day here on the channel, and we are almost there. We have been doing a little exploration of the hex clearing section in the Dungeon Master's Guide right here on page 93. Assume that the player in question decides he will set up a stronghold about 100 miles from a border town. Yeah, we're only about 8 to 12 miles from a border town. It is, to be honest, about a 25-mile walk. No roads, not great. We got a problem. Hey, geez, you're not doing it by the rules. The rules say 100. No, assume this is advice, okay? There's rules and there's advice. And most of this is suggestions on, look, this is the campaign. We're doing territory development, right? And down here, old Gary says when player characters reach upper levels, decide to establish a stronghold, you must have fairly detailed information on hand to enable this to take place. You must have a large-scale map, something like the Wolflands, a territory. These are 24-mile hexes, so that's about 175 miles across by about 175 miles wide, if you will. 175 by 175. This is the size of a typical Midwestern state. I don't know, maybe one of the counties, one of the larger counties. Is this about the size of Wales? I don't know. It's a pretty big size, though. And we know there's like a large body of water, a sea or an ocean. And we know there's where the Badlands are and where the forests are and where the hovel on the moor is. So we got a good idea. Oh, it says here you must have a detailed map. Although, to be fair, Gary also says right here, if you don't already have prepared a small-scale map of the terrain, use the random dungeon. We're talking terrain. Use the random generation method when the party is exploring. Disregard results which do not fit in with your ideas for the place. Yeah, there's a little bit of wiggle room here. Look, if you don't like mountains, if you wind up generating a bunch of weird mountains in your plains states, then disregard those. Like this guy over here, whom we've decided to call Widow's Peak. This guy, wait, did we? I wrote it down over here. Yeah, Widow's Peak. That's the little mountain. We could have ignored that. Gary says, look, if you're in the grasslands and you don't want a mountain, all right, now it's not a huge mountain. It's only 600 yards across. We do have a little chain of mountains over here. Probably some granite hills, really, the kind of thing that they're hard to get through. You're better off walking around them. There's probably a game trail or two through these hills, or maybe these are just like low humpback hills, like the backs of camels. Anyway, we could have ignored those and said, no, we'll just keep it plains. That's fine. That's according to Gary, but we like the dice. We trust the dice. So what we've been doing is sending our boys out. This is Castle Weasel. I got a map here. I don't think I showed that last time. Let me pull that out for you. It looks a little something like this these days. We're running low on funds, but by about the end of the month, we probably have pulled down these. These are wood. This is a wooden palisade, so we can put that wood to good use. Maybe making siege engines. I don't know. We probably need to bring some engineers out. We do have a ditch with a little raised portion here. Maybe we leave that ditch. Maybe we put our diggers together. Expanding that ditch around the side. Now, this is what I meant earlier when I said it's on a little outcrop here. So this is higher. This is a little lower. A little sloping ground down there, St. John's Well. So that's what this little castle looks like, and it doesn't look like it, but you can cram about 300 people in here. We've got the staff of about 50. We've got about 150 troops jammed in there. So we send out about 50 hit dice worth of troops, and we do that because it's well known that the encounters in the monster manual, a lot of those, sometimes they're up to 300 hit dice worth of orcs. Well, we want to have a large enough force that we can slow them down, get back to the castle, and prepare for a siege. Hold them off if we must. So that's what we're doing today. We're doing this in about 1-to-1 time, and today this video should go live about 5th, 12th, 19th, about the 19th. But of course, July 19th, 2025, that's about what it is right now. But of course, we don't go out on the weekends. Our boys only have 5 days worth of work to do, and we need to clear this by the end of August. So this time, because we're going out to start on the 19th, and we really only have 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. We got 2 weeks. If we have too much trouble, I'm going to do these one at a time. And using the encounter stuff right from the DMG, not a problem. We know that we have about a 1 in 10 chance of encounters. So I'm going to send my guys out just to beeline over here. Now we've already explored these two areas. Every day we explore an area about 800 yards in diameter. So that's, this portion right here, and where exactly we draw the line, whether it includes this hex or not, kind of depends on what all's around there, right? Sometimes I do a little narrower bit. It does make sense because we had mountains, hills, mountains, right? Something like this Badlands looks different from this Badlands, and that's just to keep it looking organic and natural. So this will be our Monday, and then our Tuesday, and then our Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So we're just going to go bing, bang, boom, 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 right? Like we're reading a book. Easy peasy. But instead of, as I usually do, rolling for encounters first, or maybe figuring out the terrain, and then seeing if we encounter anybody, because we're overdue, I strongly suspect we're going to have some encounters. I'm going to roll to see what the terrain is here first. 13 on the plains is going to be forest. Okay, so we got some woods up against the mountains. And is there anything living in the woods? There's not. And there you have it. A low line of trees kind of snugged up against, in fact, I'm going to change this. I'm going to make this grasslands too. Well, wait a minute, Mr. Wargaming. I thought you said you were exploring this area here. I am. Discretion must apply. My line of trees is going to be snugged up against the mountains over there. And that's kind of the delineator of where our little village stops. So now I can check this hex right here. I'm going to do the center hex first because it doesn't make sense to come through the woods and then come down along this way. Sometimes that's why you want to do it that way. So we'll roll them both. Now a 20 is delightful. There's a depression here. And that means that right here in the plains, depression, what does that mean? It means a gorge, rift, valley, or canyon. Oh my. If a depression is indicated, the referee must decide as to its nature and extent. Generally, the terrain it is in must be the same as the previous space. A depression in a marsh is some form of lake. So what we have here is just a nice low patch right here. And I'm just going to do that classic cross hatching. We'll zoom right in so you can see what I'm thinking here. Whoop. So, and that's going to be an area about like that, about 600 yards, six of these hexes. That's our depression. So that's Wednesday. And of course, with the result of a 4, we didn't have any encounter. So things are starting to take shape. This is not a happy place either. But this line of forest again is still kind of the limit of our immediate territory. Whatever little village we have here, there may be in the future we can expand a village out here. Although to be honest with you, I think we want to expand that way. That's technically closer to civilization. So now we can do this westernmost point. We get a 17. Man, we are hitting all of the fun things. So we get more mountains. All right, what does that mean? It means these mountains must hook down here. See how they come together? Oh, well, wait, how do I know that? Well, why didn't my guys see that? Again, these aren't really tall mountains. And what we're doing here is not exactly clearing the... okay, so given that, I'm going to say this hex is going to be a forest. Okay, so we got... 200 yards of forest, right? And that looks pretty good. So again, why are we putting more grass here in the area that we said was mountains? Well, I didn't say it was mountains. I said as we explore this area, there's mountains. And look at that. See how these mountains, what's the word I'm looking for? Describe the border of our territory. That's pretty sweet. It's kind of fun how that naturally happens. And we have more rough. So that's going to be more not badlands, but this area down. Wait, we said we're going to be down here. So now we're back into broken lands right here, which probably ties in with these broken lands and something like that. And then we have one more. And do we have any? No, with a 7, we do not have any interesting encounters. And with a result of a 12, we have more scrubland. And scrub is brush, veldt, bush, thickets, and bracken. So really hostile area down here too, and I'm gonna just is this one that we ignore? It's brush, bush, thickets. So this is the thickets down here, and this is more rough area. So we have little depression there in the plains, and once we get it all colored up, it's gonna look a little something like this. Now, I moved the depression down just a couple of hexes and decided this must be the old quarry. And by old quarry, what I'm envisioning here is, by the way, brief aside, I rolled for 5 different kinds of terrain. there's a 50-50 chance that we get grasslands. We hit it once. Wait, no, what did we get? We got woods, we got mountains, we got thickets, depression, and so we went 5 for 5 on no grasslands. This is not a great hex for our little village, right? The grasslands are nice, very calm, very plain, very easy. We have a lot of really interesting things going on down in this hex, but really I want to point out that this old quarry is probably, it was a spur off these mountains, and that's where the stones came from for Castle Weasel. Well, why didn't Castle Weasel come mine over here? Well, that's probably like you got to carry the heavy stones uphill. There's a slight grade, maybe 1 or 2%, but man, you'll feel that over the course of a mile. Whereas with the old quarry, you dig it out here, you knock down this little ridge of hills, and then, now you've opened up a path through here. Now, why are the Badlands there? This may be scars from the old battle that ruined the old wood. Just as a means, just as a reminder, the dead wood, this scrubland, we're assuming, canonically, we decided that it was part of these woods up here that was blasted by some ancient apocalypse. And in fact, that apocalypse left a crater down here just about 8 miles to the southwest of Castle Weasel. So we can go explore that. If we can keep some guys safe down that crater, maybe there's a fabulous treasure. Maybe there's a mega dungeon. We don't know yet. We have to go explore it. And then this is our local mega dungeon. It's the Redditomb, filled with the remains of old Redditors. All right, so the other thing that I thought was, and why did I move it down? Just because that way we have a little bit more pasture land, and it makes a little sense to me that, okay, well, this mountain range probably ran up here, and here it's low. So what's the difference between mountains or hills in this case? I don't know. It's a difference between rolling a 20 and a 19, I guess. But then, because we're kind of off the map here, maybe these hills connect as well. And so what we really have is a ridge line cutting down through here. And if we were to put this down here, see the hills down there? Maybe Castle Weasel needs to be shifted up here a little bit, because this is all these rough hills that cut about a mile into there. So even though the bulk of this hex is plains, we got hills up here, and that connects up. So it's amazing how well that worked out for us. We're making all of these connections that were purely random. You saw them. I rolled the dice, but it all just works out really well in the end. All right, well, is this the end of the campaign? No. First of all, we've demonstrated that Roger the Hammer Steiner is capable of managing several hundred soldiers, that he's capable of building something out here. There's something to be said here. Some of the excess population can be bled off and used. We've now fully torn down. The new farmers and settlers have torn down the ruins of the old village, and we're going to build it over here. We're going to put it in this area so that we have this little defensible area. We got the pond here, we got the castle, and then any bad guys coming are going to have to sweep down this way. We'll see them coming. So what do? We could build a tower here. That would take 3 or 4 months. But now we know where the stone's coming from. Oh, it's a little further away, isn't it? Well, maybe we have to go quarry it from here. That's a little bit closer. It's only 1.5 miles instead of 1-2 miles. But there's an old road here we could fix up, make that a little bit easier. We could also maybe build ourselves a little caravanserai, a little way station. Remember, this is what the hex next door looks like. Here's Corvusburg, the nearest frontier town. To get from Corvusburg to the castle, you either have to sail across the lake, and all these fishermen are like, bro, I can't be ferrying all this cargo. I got fish to catch. I got kids to feed. They may do it a little bit as a one-off, but generally they're out here fishing on the long lake. So that means you got to walk through the pastures, and then it's about a day's hike to get to here. Okay, if you're on horseback, you can do it in a single day. But if you've got porters, or if you're slowed down, if it's raining, maybe we need to build a little fortified camp here, where when the bad guys come pouring in from, and then here's what it looks like in hex version, right? So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20 miles just to get to the tip of the hex there. And then from that point on, it's maybe a day and a half, right? But still, you're going to have to sleep out there. And so rather than camping in the rough, we could build some shelters, right? Pave it a little bit, make it a little more comfy. But of course, the area to the north of this hex is going to look a little something like this one. And we found that there's There's sandy hills and there's a marsh. We fought a battle here. It's mostly plains and grasslands through here. So that's nice. You can see the bad guys coming from a fairly good distance. But by building a way station right about here, maybe near the shores of the lake, right? Because if you put it on the shores of the lake, that's this lake right here, then you can communicate maybe via semaphore from here to here and pass messages along. Maybe you can even see the towers of the castle. Well, we're uphill a little bit, not high enough, but maybe from the top of this you can see Corvusberg. Maybe this is where you have your semaphore communicating with people. So we have some options here. The other thing I'll point out is that we got pretty lucky in terms of our encounters. We did, over the last 3 weeks, we had 5 chances here. Now, it's a 1 in 10 chance. I rolled 5 times here, nothing. 5 times here, nothing. 5 times here, nothing. 15 times. On average, you should have 1.5. We had none. So somebody's looking out for us. Somebody really wanted us to finish this off. And they wanted us to finish it off before August 1st, because that's when we can report back to our family. We have completed surveying this whole area. We now have patrols that are staked. Maybe not this one, right? Maybe we just limit it to this side of the hills, right? This is our turf after all. So as long as we're patrolling this, we can reduce the number of incursions into our area, which will allow the farmers to feel safe. Now we can, if we wanted to, roll to say we've been attacked because, and this is where we get into the realm of between letting the dice decide and just creating voluntary challenges to overcome. And you can let the dice decide, well, somebody's come to attack us. In our next episode, we may actually have adventurers come in and help us clear out the Reditomb. Maybe we tax them 10%. You know, there's a little mini game we can design for that. But for today, because we finished our challenge before August 1st, we're gonna be able to start looking at what happens when settlers come in. What does the tax roll look like? And I don't think it works great, to be honest with you, but I don't know until I've done it. And I think that's the difference between this channel and a lot of the other channels is they will read a page like 93 and say, well, this is interesting, but I'm not sure if it works. Whereas thanks to actually putting paper down and putting dice on the table, we now have a much better appreciation for what works really well in here and what doesn't, and how this can drive a campaign. We went early, by the way. We really challenged ourselves. This is more for name level people that have attracted large numbers of followers. We're only at 6th level. We're still 3 levels away. Maybe we do the milestone thing, and I mean, Roger hasn't really been out adventuring. That can be happening in the background. And I think that's part of the idea of this, is that this stuff can be kind of happening in the background. You, as a player, can be building your little turf, your little area here, and getting ready for larger adventures. And I think, unlike most channels that just kind of figured it out, we have a much greater appreciation for why you probably want to wait till name level. You probably want to be tough enough to handle most of the encounters in the monster manual without a whole lot of assistance. We went early. We went at 6th level, and we bought all of our followers from the ground up. You know, we have a couple of henchmen, and that's about it. Maybe wait a little bit, guys. Maybe wait until you got some serious numbers, because otherwise you're going to be hard-pressed to stay on top of things. And maybe pause this for a while, or let this run in the background while you're off delving tombs and making enough money to be able to bring in as much help as possible, as fast as possible. We know that because we did it. And these are games, man. Gaming is a verb. It's a thing you do. You don't just theorize. You don't just think about it. You actually do it. And one of the things I want to do is find out who is the first force to show up after we have proved to the family that we can settle a little territory. Now, yeah, it's like the old saying, right? What have you given us? You've given us Castle Weasel, if you can keep it. So can we keep it? I'm going to make another roll on the Plains random encounter check and find out who our first significant challenge is. Our first significant challenge is. With a result of a 59, it's going to be big shock. You've got a 20% chance that it's going to be men, and it is going to be men. So we have to roll on. And again, right, when you're in the plains, you're likely going to encounter a lot of wildlife. It's pretty rare. Just take a look here, right? This is what the world looks like. Giant ants, brown bears, wild cattle, Where's the first? Here's dragons. You got a 2% chance of encountering a dragon, and that's really where it starts. 1% chance of a griffin. Are there any other crazy, like a Kirin? There's one. Hippogriffs, 2%. Most of these things, 5% chance of hurt animal. The really fantastic things, 1% chance of owlbear. A little surprised we didn't hit that. Most of the big fantastic stuff, they tend to hide out in the woods and in the hills and in the mountains, right? But we have more men. So we're going to have to roll on the men type table. That's up here. And again, in the plains, if you just take a look at this, what are you most likely to encounter? Nomads, 30% chance. Merchants, about a 25% chance. Dervishes, which are kind of like pilgrims, right? The pilgrims are 5. Dervishes, you add the 1 in 5. Maybe some wild tribesmen. Who knows? Well, the dice know. With an 82, we're going to have more nomads. So nomads are going to show up, and they're going to stick around. I'm going to call it quits right there. Maybe we should have rolled on the Badlands. Let's just take a look. What if I had said Badlands? Well, in that case, a result of a 59 is still men. Okay, and you have the same chances of ogres, says giant. Okay, so it's still men. But what if? So what was that roll? It was like a 57 on the men type table. But if you're in the scrublands. Wait, am I rolling in scrub or am I rolling in rough? I can't remember. If I'm rolling in the scrublands, it's the near scrub, right? Okay, so we're still there. But that 57, instead of being nomads, or would have been, it's just about the same. Little less likely. I think it was like a 75 or something. So still nomads in the Badlands. All right, well, I was wrong about that. But I do think I'm right about the fact that the plains, very safe. If you have a choice between exploring mountains and plains and marsh, cool. Don't get me started on the marsh, right? If you really want to play on hard level, you come to you start off in a hex like this swamp, or up here, up in the far corner, we got the hovel on the moor. That's where the scary stuff is. There's all kinds of ghosts and hags and stuff. Don't start there. That's Hurt Me Plenty style, okay? So I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that the plains were so amenable to this kind of gaming that you were mostly going to encounter low-level wildlife, like, wolves. But having done it, you start to see these things. And that's the value in play. And one of the other values in play is doing this in front of a live studio audience or with a group of friends or a number of people who are as smart as you and can challenge you. And that's where you guys come in, because I don't know that we would have gotten through all of this without each other. I know I call this a solo play, but between helping me name things, helping me, keeping me honest on some of these roles, giving me advice on, hey, did you look on this page at what happens there? That stuff is also valuable. And hopefully this serves as a testament to the ability of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons to provide a rich and enjoyable solo experience. This gives you a better idea how hex clearing works and what that looks like in practice. We're going to call it quits here for a couple of reasons. One, we've done just about all we can with this section right here. Unless you have two castles on opposite sides of the map, and you're going to send armies around, and that's really what the game was designed for. That could be a useful exercise. But for now, we're going to close the books on the Wolflands and Roger Steiner. We're going to let things cook, and that's going to give me a little bit more time. I got more people sending me games that they've written, stuff like Fights of Fantasy. You saw those, and we're neck deep in the Mauritius campaign. So if you're here for AD&D, you can tune out. We're done. I'm just talking about the channel stuff. Having two long-running campaigns going at the same time really handcuffs me. I got a lot of really interesting things to show you, and if I only have one episode a week to do that, it just doesn't work very well. So we're gonna close the books. I gotta finish one of these up, and maybe when we wrap up the Mauritius campaign, we can turn our attention back to the Wolflands. And maybe if you guys have any suggestions for other interesting aspects of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons that have long lain fallow, depths that we can delve that most people haven't, let me know down in the comments section. We still want to stick with this campaign. It's so rich and detailed. We've done so much with it. We kind of want to stick with that. Maybe as a one-off, we'll explore the crater down there, but we have some time, right? We'll finish out the summer with just let the village build up, let people stream in, and in a few months we can come back and peek in on Castle Weasel and the boys and see where they're at and see what kind of adventures we can have with them. But this, like I said, frees up more opportunity for other things. And if you have any games you want to see in the channel, make sure you let me know. There's too much for one guy to cover. I'm trying not to cover stuff that other channels have covered a whole lot of, and a lot of the the indie games that my best friend made that you see over on some of the bigger channels. You know the ones I'm talking about. People, we should talk more about Two Fat Lardies. Now, everybody talks about the Lardies. I'm not going to talk about Lardies. I'm not going to talk about Warlord. There's nothing really I can say that hasn't already been said. If you have those weird, quirky games, old school games, I still got to show you guys Imperial Commander, old Dickie Hallowell. So there's a lot of good stuff coming up. Keep watching the channel. As long as you're watching, I'll keep making it. Thanks for coming along on this ride. We'll come back to it. Just be patient. We'll get there. A lot of good stuff to get to. Till next time, I'm praying for you.